This video is a follow-on from my Cisco IOS command automation video initial demonstration. If you haven't seen it, you can see it on YouTube. There's the URL. It's literally just over two minutes long because I wanted it to be short and punchy. This video is going to be longer because it's going to explain more about what I was actually doing in that video. See a lot more of the detail. It's quite technical. So let's get started. So as a review, I showed that I had a Cisco switch called the CAT that I could telnet into. I had a user configured on this switch which I could log into. I could then enable to get to privilege mode and issue iOS commands. So for example, show clock, and then finish, exit and log back out. Now I automated that process using a script called Cisco commands, and I ran it with these arguments. I think I've got that right. And you can see that it automatically ran all of that. I also showed that I could send that output to a file, and then I could look at the content of the file afterwards. And there we go. Now, to delve into this, I'm going to basically build this up, adding command line option, and then condensing them. So stick with me. What we'll do, if I just run the Cisco commands script on its own, it gives me a usage message saying that actually for it to work, you've got to specify various options like the -CP for a connection profile and the name of the command file. Let's just look at that command file first. The command file showclock.cmd simply has a one-line in it called showclock. That's the iOS command which I want to run on the switch. So the first thing we need to tell the script is advise which method we're going to use to access the switch. Now at the moment it's either telnet or secure shell. Now this time it's telling me that's great, but you need to specify the host name. So I specify the host name like this. Now it's saying there's no command file name option, file name supplied, so let's add that in. Now it's telling me that the telnet connection method requires a username, user NDC. Now we're getting a bit further. It's starting off the telnet session, but as soon as it puts in the, as soon as it asks for password, it says that I don't know what the password for NDC is, so we can set that as well. Now what I'm about to do, you should never specify passwords on the command line or put them into a plain text file. I'll explain a way around this later on, but for now, trust me that the passwords that you'll see are just temporary passwords for this demonstration. But as I say, don't get into the habit of doing this yourself. So the password for NDC is... So this time it gets a little bit further. We get logged into the switch. It issues the enable command, but now it says I don't know what the enable password is. Well, rest assured there's another option for that. So you see this command line is getting quite long now. And if I specify enable and then specify the password for that, now we're into it and the whole thing's working. It's gone through and it's run. So let's just look at that command line that we've got here now. Very long. This is where the CP option comes in. If I look at the file, the cat.cp, this is what I've called a connection profile, and it's basically a way of being able to specify a lot of this information in one neat option rather than having all these other options on here. So here we can see that we've got the method to be telnet, the host is the cat, the user is NDC, the password for the user and the enable password are in there. So if I edit my command line now to be just the command option and put in this CP option, we get the same result because it's taking all the extra commands which it needs. So that's basically how all of that works. Now, the two things which I've done wrong here is I showed you a method where I specify the passwords on the command line. This is a bad idea because one, you can see them if you're looking over my shoulder. Also, commands get stored in a shell history file, and if anyone gets access to a shell history file, for instance the root user on this machine, they could see all of this information in there. That's not good. Having the password stored in a plain text file, as I've done here, is also not such a great idea either. So here's something where we can make things just a little bit more secure. It's not foolproof, but it's better. It's certainly a lot better than what we've got here. I'm going to just edit the connection profile, and instead of putting the passwords, I'm going to do this. What happens now, I run the same command, and it's now telling me that the environment variable upass isn't defined. So what it's doing is it's saying, I won't take the password from straight from the connection profile file. I will look for the environment variable named in it. So you can see here we've got upass. So if I define the environment variable upass to be equal to that, and if we do the same for the enable password, now when I run this, everything works again. But again, I haven't quite solved the problem because I've still got the problem here. You saw me type this in, epass equals boatface, and similarly for upass equals boatymook. So again, it's in the command line. It means I can run the command as many times as I like and actually run other commands. So I think we had one called running.cmd, which gives us shows us the configuration of the switch. That's great. So I'm not having to, you're not seeing the password every time. But is there a better way of being able to set the upass and the epass environment variables on the command line without the password being seen? Well, yes, there is, because I've got a handy little shell script that when you run this, it then asks for the password, and watch what happens now. You can't see me type the password. It also checks that I've typed it in properly. So this is just a way to actually do this. Now, if you're interested in, just as a sideline, if you're interested in the set pw command, you can get that off my GitHub repository. That's the URL for it. Let's just put that into down here so you can see it, just so you've got a reference to it. So that's the one that you want to go for there. Have a good old read, and in particular what you want out of there is the setpw.sh file. Okay, now just to prove all that's working, I'm going to log out of my Linux session, and let's log back in again. This has the effect of the environment variables which are set up will now be forgotten. So if I do, it's not defined. So just get back into my projects directory where I'm working on this. Probably right. So again, if I run the script, it's telling me that things aren't defined. Here's where we can run set pw. So I'm going to set the passwords up. Yeah. Do the same for the epass. Now when we run this, it's all working fine again. So you might be thinking, this is an awful lot of faff just to log in and run a command. I could just log into the switch and do it. What's the whole point of this script? It's, you know, it seems like much more work than just actually typing the thing in. Well, what it's really for is once you can automatically log in, as you can here, and run one or more Cisco IOS commands against the switch, you can repeat that process programmatically. So I've got a small shell script. Let's just clear the screen so you can see it a bit better. Sorry, let's just get a bigger font so you can really see what's going on. All good demonstrations. And what the script does, it sets up a list, a name of 3 connection profiles, and then for each of the connection profiles it runs the Cisco command naming the connection profile here and then running any other arguments which I supply when I run it. So by doing this, what's happening now, it's logged into 3 switches and it's obtained the time from 3 switches by doing that. And this is where the power of the Cisco commands expect script should really start to show itself. Now, you might have guessed I've dropped a couple of hints. The script itself is actually an expect script. So that's the top of it there. So we can get a little bit more sophisticated, and I'm kind of doing this on the hoof now. If I, for example, every time I run the command script, I'll send the output of the script to the name of the connection profile .out. And now if I run shell multi.sh, let's give it a command, say running.cmd, which shows the running configuration. The script will now run. We won't see the output because it's sending the output into files, which we'll have a look at in a second. And you can see it has just generated, if I go into the right directory, generated 3 files here. Today, the cat CP, so we've got 3 files for each of the switches. And you see once we've got logged in, we're actually seeing what the running configuration is. So I've now got the running configuration for all 3 of those switches stored locally here. Hey, that's useful. It's a good idea to log into your Cisco switches and routers, do a show running config or a show startup config, and save the output somewhere else, because if the configuration gets corrupted or lost, or the switch goes wrong and you need to replace it with a replacement switch, you've got a config ready to load back on. So again, I'm hoping that you're seeing the power and the possibilities that this starts to open up. Now, I'm not going to go into much else at the moment because I intend to do several more demonstration videos focusing on a particular area of Cisco switch administration, which you might find this useful for. I'll also just caveat that I'm not a Cisco configuration expert by any means. I'm a software automation specialist, and I like to provide tools to people like Cisco administrators to make their jobs easier. Also, if you're thinking, what about HP ProCurve? What about other types of switches and routers? Well, basically anything that's got a command line interface that you can access by telnetting to it, or it's something as secure as shell session with, or any other kind of command line interface where you type commands in and you get outputs back. You can use this concept to build tools which will help you. Okay, I'm going to wrap things up there. If you'd like a copy of the script, send me an email. It's not a problem. I'd like people to use this, start to benefit from it, and I'd be very interested to hear from you, and also to find out what you're doing and the challenges that you're facing, because I may be able to add extra features which might help you even more. So as I said, I'll wrap up now. Thank you for watching.